And if you have any, okay, we're gonna start that one over, Sarah, because the laundry thing was going.
Hi, it's Wendy.
For example, I almost knocked that over.
I'm a preschool teacher, so you know the little old woman who lived in a shoe and had so many children she didn't know what to do? That's kind of me with kitchen stuff.
Given the opportunity, pick up one of these things.
I'm gonna show you the one that I said I was gonna do, and I'm gonna slip in a couple others.
We are going to talk about our favorite kitchen tools.
We sure are.
Hey everybody, it's Sarah, and my favorite kitchen tool that I'm going to be sharing with you today is the fine mesh strainer. Now, this is an item that you might think is like a little extra. Why do you need that? I will tell you, I thought the same thing until I got them. So this was something that I always kind of wanted, but I was like, I'll get it another time. I don't know why I did that because I use them all the time. So this is a set of 3. And I love these because I use them for so many things in the kitchen. Now that I have them, I use them all the time, and they really just make my cooking a lot easier. So first thing about the strainer is it has this nice little handle. So it's better when you have small amounts. A lot of times your colander is just too big for the small amount that you need to rinse. And then the other thing is that it is this fine mesh webbing, so it's going to be a lot better for things where you want a little bit of smaller holes and you don't want things running through. For example, rice. So if you put this in a colander, depending on your colander, the holes might be a little too big. So I use the large mesh strainer. That's hard to say. Mesh strainer. I use the large mesh strainer in my set for rice. So, you know, the amount of rice I make is going to depend, but I would measure it out and then I just pour it in there. I also use it for other grains, things like quinoa that you need to rinse. And then once I've got the strainer full of my rice or whatever grain I'm working with, you know, it's in here, and then I can just run it under the water. I can swish it around and make sure it gets all nice and rinsed. And it has this handle, so it's just the perfect size for that amount, and the small holes also make it really nice. And then the other sizes I use for other things. So this medium size one is really great if you need to drain a can of beans and rinse those off. I use it all the time for that. It's also really nice if you have some sort of like delicate fruit that comes in a small amount, like maybe you have some fresh berries or a little bundle of grapes and you want to give them a rinse, but again, you don't want a huge big thing for just this small amount. The mesh strainer is really nice for that. I really like this when I am straining broth. So if you make homemade broth in your slow cooker with, you know, a few veggie scraps, or a lot of times if I have chicken bones from a chicken I cooked earlier in the week, then I'll save those and make broth with it. When you make that broth, there's going to be little bits of things in there when it's done, and in addition to getting those big chunks out, you need to get those little teeny tiny bits that have broken off of the vegetables and the bones as they've been cooking for that long amount of time. So this is perfect for that. When I am straining the broth, first I'll get the large pieces out, but then when I'm doing that final pass to get any little bits, this medium size is perfect for setting in a funnel over top of a jar and pouring and getting any little remaining little bits out of my broth. For the little one, this one is very cute. I will say I don't use this one as often because it is just so small, but the main thing I use it for is when I'm juicing citrus. I can use this to catch the seeds. So, the fine mesh strainer, an underappreciated kitchen tool, but one that makes your cooking a whole lot easier.
Hey everyone, my name is Hannah and I'd like to chat with you about one of my favorite kitchen tools, the hand juicer. So mine looks like this. It holds about 1/3 cup of liquid or 2.5 ounces. You can get bigger ones and ones that are flatter and easier for kids to use, but this is the one I have here and it's pretty small and easy to use. So this is the part that catches all the juice, and then here it has a strainer so that all of the seeds and pulp get caught, which is the best part because I know for me, I usually, if I don't have a strainer, I get lazy about finding all the seeds in the lemon, and you never want to have a lemon seed in your recipe. So tonight I'm using lemons two ways. I'm using it for roasted veggies with quinoa for the dressing, and then I'm also making an Italian lemon loaf because my sweet tooth is kicking in and I need some baked goods to make my apartment smell really nice. When you're using a juicer, you definitely want to roll your citrus, whichever citrus you're using, so that you can get all the juice ready up to the top, and then cut it in half and make sure your top is attached, and then just go to town. And like I said, this can be a great job for kiddos, but it's really fun for anyone to do. So I'll show you here what the juice of one lemon looks like. I had a pretty big lemon here, so it just depends on how big your lemons end up being, but you want to get it so that pretty much all of the fiber is then squeezed out, because that's when you get all the good juices, especially because the top of this juicer catches all of the pulpy parts. All right, so here it looks like I've got about 1/4 cup of lemon juice in here, and you can see on the top all of the seeds and the pulp. And so I'm gonna mix this with some olive oil and salt and pepper, and it'll be a perfect dressing for my roasted veggies with quinoa. Hopefully the next time you use citrus, you can get yourself a juicer to make it that much easier.
Hi, I'm Dr. Yum, and I'm here with Zane, and we're talking about one of our favorite kitchen tools. It's a little bit of a weird one, but we love our
bench scrapers.
bench scrapers. So much so that we have two, because if you can't find one, we go into a little bit of a panic. So we had to have two of them. So a bench scraper is also known as a pastry cutter, but we use it for all kinds of little chores. And one of the things that I personally use it a lot for is transferring veggies from the cutting board over to the cooktop. Sometimes I use a flexible cutting mat, but sometimes I'm just cutting here on the wood cutting board, and I want to get all this nice veg into my stir fry, into the skillet. So I use it almost like a shovel, and I can get almost a whole onion onto this bench scraper, and then I can carry it carefully over to my cooktop.
For me during quarantine, I've been doing a lot of making a lot of dough, and it's really good for a lot of uses in baking. One thing that we do a lot is if you have like a dirty work surface, you can kind of scrape off a lot of bits on your work surface with the scraper, so you don't have to constantly be going with a rag and like digging in with your fingernails or anything. The other night we did pasta, we did gnocchis specifically, and we found a use for it where you can kind of cut gnocchi with your bench scraper like this very, very easily, and creating these little shapes that then you can boil. Another thing is if you're portioning out dough for something like bread, if you're making a big batch of bread and you're making 2 loaves, it's very easy to just separate with your bench scraper, and then you've got 2 pieces, or you can portion other things for different sorts of pastries. I've been using that a lot.
The other thing is like the secret, there's like a secret ruler. A lot of them have that. So if you need to measure something, you can measure really quickly. And then there are also other creative things you can do with it. I've seen people use it for icing, like icing a cake. A lot of times when you're baking, you need to incorporate cold butter into flour. So it's good for kind of breaking up that cold butter and incorporating it into some kind of crust that you're making, like a pie crust.
I've also seen it used for sometimes when you're garnishing cakes, if you're doing some sort of tempering, if you're doing decorations. You can also use it to make curls. I've seen chocolate curls being made where you can pour chocolate and then go like this, and it'll start curling as it fills up, and then you can make nice decorations on top of a cake.
That's fancy. So that is our favorite kitchen tool in our household. Leave a comment though and let us know, maybe there's a way that you like to use a bench scraper. Let us know.
My name's Heidi DiEugenio, and I'm on the board of directors of the Dr. Yum Project. And I'm here today to tell you about my latest favorite kitchen gadget. It's a zester that I recently found, and I'm a little embarrassed that it's taken me this long to find it. For years, I struggled with this thing. And this little zester also works, but it also took as much skin off my hand as it did skin off a lemon. So zesters are typically used for lemons. It's what most folks kind of know about. Take that big old lemon and be sure to wash it beforehand and dry it really well, because it's one thing that can be overlooked. But you just kind of take it along the edge and you get a nice little section of smells delicious. We also could do lime. There are some recipes that ask for lime zest. Two other things that I really like to use the zester for is hard Parmesan or any other kind of really hard cheeses. You can really do a nice fresh grate, and the smell of it is just delicious. And the taste is actually a little bit more special when you use it fresh from the hard block of cheese. And lastly, ginger. Ginger can be really hard to chop really well. It's really kind of sinewy, and using a zester like this, very quickly you can get a nice teaspoon or so of freshly grated ginger for a recipe. So that's a fantastic little trick with that. You can also use it for chocolate. So what do you use lemon zest in or for? It just adds a whole different pop to recipes. On the Dr. Yum site, we've got a whole list of recipes that use lemon zest. Everything from like a Italian lemon loaf and cranberry tea cake to I think we've got a cucumber watermelon salsa. One of my very big favorites is the shipwreck salmon with citrus, and it has a lot of zest in it. A couple of hummuses that we have. There's a lemony bean hummus and also an edamame hummus that use the zest, and it just kind of kicks it up quite a bit. It's actually good in tea, and you know, also use it in your favorite cocktail. Grab one of these, it's fantastic, and enjoy. Thanks.
Hi everybody, it's Laura Visioni and
Rocco, first grade, seven years old. I play the violin.
Rocco. Do you want to go first and tell folks what your favorite kitchen tool is?
Well, my favorite kitchen tool is dog knives. So there's the tail, ear, eyes, and nose. You get usually once you get one, you get a serrated one, which means like curvy,
Jagged, yeah.
and one that's like sharp, which means it's straight.
But we cannot cut ourselves with these knives, can we?
Nope.
They are very safe for children.
But they're perfect for cutting.
They actually
vegetables.
work. Ta-da. Another reason that I love these dog knives is that here at home and at the Dr. Yum Teaching Kitchen, we can show children safe cutting technique using the dog knife. So show them how that works.
So put your thumb and pointer finger on the ears and put the rest of your hands over here on the body,
Right.
near the tail.
And then what about this hand?
Well, this hand, it usually does something like this or that or that.
Right.
It depends on what you're cutting.
Right.
Like what you're cutting, the shape will be different. And
But when we teach little kids, and like when we first taught you, what did we say we're doing with this hand so that we don't cut our fingertips? We make it into a
puppy or a kitty claw.
puppy or a kitty claw. So these are safe, and they actually work. And Rocco's been using them here since he was about 3.5 or 4.
Since I learned how to cook I help Mom, I have these, so I use them. It's really fun.
We also always cut on these flexible mats.
One
See
of
here?
my second favorite.
Yeah. I love these because they clean up in the dishwasher. They're dishwasher safe, so they always come out sanitized.
You can make them into a spout to like pour stuff in.
Yeah, and it's really convenient when you've filled the mat with, like, say you're chopping veggies for a soup. I'm just kind of making quick trips between the counter and the pot on mat, and then you can dump onto the tray. And it's nice because they curl up and you can make a little spout. So my favorite kitchen tool is the simple baking tray. This particular tray has been in my life for 20 years. It was a wedding gift, and it is still a workhorse in my kitchen. I love it. I use these trays for the obvious, like we bake on them, we bake cookies with them.
Roast vegetables.
We roast veggies on these
And
constantly, and we're gonna roast a veg today. But other things, I've stopped frying meatballs and I bake them on a cookie sheet. We'll use them for, kind of like a one and done dinner, a tray bake. I can put a protein, a bunch of veggies, and for our family of 6, it'll be 2 trays worth. For a family of 4, you could fit a whole meal on one tray. And then it just bakes in the oven, no fuss, and dinner is done.
Wow.
Yep, I can make a whole jar this size of granola on one tray. I soak French toast on these. So anyway, they just get a lot of use in my kitchen.
You can soak enough French toast for a family of 6, actually.
You can. And then coupled with these trays, I love parchment paper. Parchment comes brown. It comes in white on rolls. And it's great because you can cover a tray with it. You turn your tray into a non-stick surface by using parchment. It's easy cleanup because the mess stays on the parchment and the parchment can go in the trash if it's really messed up. When you bake, you can reuse the parchment up to 4 times. Foil also can protect one of these pans. And that's fine, here, I'll take that. I'm gonna show them this. Foil can protect the pan too, but I like parchment because it's also non-stick. It evenly distributes your heat. And this, I just love this stuff. It's pre-cut. And it is pre-cut to the exact size of my favorite kitchen tool. So it just couldn't be easier to use this. Oh, and one other thing I love about parchment is it can become wrapping paper in a pinch. So when I'm giving baked goods as a gift, the brown kind or the white with a little bit of twine turns your, say loaf of banana bread into a sweet little hostess gift. And I think we'll just show you our tools in action briefly. We're gonna have some roasted Brussels sprouts for dinner tonight. So pretty little Brussels sprouts. And roasting veg, I would say 90% of the use these trays get in our kitchen is roasting vegetables.
It's tasty, yum.
Yeah, for sure at the Dr. Yum Project too. We have, I think I counted 9 roasted vegetable recipes on our website. Wow. Maybe with broccoli coming soon makes 8. Yeah, we have 8. With broccoli coming soon makes 9. I don't know. I feel like Brussels sprouts have kind of a bad reputation. People maybe grew up hating them. And I think that's because back in the day, the only thing people did with Brussels sprouts was boil them. And when you boil a Brussels sprout, it actually smells kind of bad. They're in the cabbage family and they put off a funny odor. And if you cook them too long, they get really mushy. Somehow in the oven, when you roast these, something magical happens. They just take on a toasty taste. They're delicious.
And don't worry about the leaves that fall off because they're like a little bonus. They're like a little crunchy food bonus. They're crunchy.
Yeah, they do. These little leaves, the loose ones that come off, and when you roast them, they almost turn into like little potato chips when you're roasting. We'll just put it on the halves, and then, if a little bit falls off like these did, we throw those on the tray too.
You don't mind. It's the crunchy bonus.
Yeah, that's it. So happy roasting. We hope that you maybe find some use for our favorite kitchen tools, and we hope if nothing else, you get in your kitchen cooking together.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
My favorite kitchen appliance is actually the immersion blender. I love my immersion blender. I'm so sorry for the mess in our kitchen. My kids are distance learning right now. As you can see, Reka is distance learning right now. Anyway, back to my favorite appliance, the kitchen blender. So I use this, let me think. The first time I actually got my kitchen blender was a gift when my kids were about 6 months old. And I used it a lot to puree their food. And I also took it when we traveled because that way when we were traveling and I was able to make something, it was easy. I can just use this and puree whatever we were eating and give it to them as well. And just so you guys know, the Dr. Yum website actually has a baby food option as one of their tags. And you could definitely take the food, the recipe, and just change it into a baby food option using your immersion blender. I love it also because it's so easy to travel with. You can unplug it, it comes in pieces, and pack it away as well. And it's not very expensive. It's very easy to clean. And I don't have to grab another appliance to blend and wash. Today, actually, what I'm using my immersion blender for is for a lentil soup. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to change it up a little bit, and I'm actually going to puree it with my immersion blender. It's really important when you use the immersion blender, especially in a hot, when your product or your recipe is still hot. You want to make sure the entire bottom is immersed so it doesn't splash everywhere. Okay, so here we go. I use
this currently for soups, for smoothies, for pasta sauces, and like I said, you can use it also for baby food pureeing as well. That's why this is my favorite tool, because it's very useful for many different things.
What we've been doing since we've been working from home is Sarah and I usually are in the kitchen 2 Tuesdays a month doing recipe development, and it's open kitchen hours, and we have lots of our Yum fans who come in and test what we're making. And so we haven't had the opportunity to do that. We really miss it. But we still want to be developing new recipes. So Sarah and I are doing that from home, and we're testing recipes at our individual houses and switching recipes, and each of us are trying to make each other's recipe, and then we send it out to the team. So the one I'm working on now is called an egg roll soup. And so it's basically all the goodness of what's in an egg roll in a soup. I've been really into soups lately, as you know. The first kitchen tool I want to show you is my palm peeler. This is so great. I use it at school with my preschoolers, but I like it at home for me too. It's a very safe vegetable peeler. You slip your finger in the back, and then you have a nice handhold, and you can see it's just right there in the palm of my hand. When I'm teaching kids to use it, I have them slip their finger in, and then I can sort of put my hand over their hand and help guide them so they learn how to do it. Things like carrot peelers and graters and knives are all tools that we want everyone to learn how to use, but learn how to use safely. So I love the palm peeler. They're very inexpensive, and it just hangs right on your finger. I'm gonna have carrots in this soup, so I'm gonna show you. You just hold your carrot and peel and turn. Peel and turn. Now, a lot of times for soups, I don't really even bother with peeling because I just scrub my carrots and you get the dirt off and you're good. But this is a great thing for a kitchen helper to do, is to peel your carrots. Now, of course, when I'm peeling carrots, I'm gonna use some that I'll cut into sticks to have in the fridge for dippers. One thing I need to do is I gotta cut the ends off my carrots. So I'm gonna show you my favorite knife. Everyone has a preferred knife and a preferred shape. This one is called a Santoku knife. This is my 7-inch Santoku, and this is a 5-inch Santoku. And these are like super special, very special Christmas presents that I got from my husband. But until you're ready to get really good knives, you can still practice by getting some more inexpensive versions. I got a set of knives that had 2 sizes of Santokus, a tomato knife, a chef knife, a bread knife, all in one set for like $19.99. So you can find decent sets of knives so you can try different shapes. This one comes in a cover. I love the shape of the Santoku. What you want to do is start practicing with your chef knife and your Santoku by keeping the point onto the board when you cut. So what I'll do right now is prepare this like I would for having someone else help me in the kitchen. So you want to get that flat surface on your carrot, keep your point on the board, and then you can just coast along, making those nice cuts. I'm gonna show you one other thing. I also love my box grater. So this box grater is really special to me. It was my Grandma Fern's, and this was one of the things when she was paring down from her house to a 2-bedroom apartment to a 1-bedroom apartment. In the final move, she let me pick this to take home with me, and so I brought it home, and I think of her every time I use it. So I love this box grater because look at all the different choices you have for vegetables or zesting or even cheese or anything you want to do with the box grater. And it has this handy catcher right here so that you can just grate and then lift it and drop it right into whatever you're making, salad, soup, or whatever. This is another thing when you're having kids help you with something like a grater, which is a very easy thing. You can get your knuckles or your fingernail or whatever. I'm gonna use the big carrot here for this. You want to be basically the lead hand. They can put their hand here and you put your hand up front, so you're the lead. And then just help them to learn the kind of pressure you have to put onto a grater to get it to work. So I'm gonna grate both of these carrots for the soup, and check it out. Then you just slide that off and everything's just hanging out right there. That's it for my tools. The palm peeler, the Santoku knife, and the box grater.